Hello there. I've been thinking, is it possible that the seed of the persecution of Lucy Letby began not in 2015 but in 2014 with a very specific event, and that event is the death of baby Noah. And we know that Dr. B, one of the gang of four, is responsible for the death of baby Noah. And we know from very early reporting that Lucy felt that Dr. B didn't like her. So where is the source of that dislike? Why? Where did that come from? Is it possible that Dr. B and the other doctors in that unit would have wanted to, had they been able to, cover up the death of baby Noah in 2014, but for somebody saying or doing something that didn't allow them to do that, and so it went to an inquest? Was it something they would have covered up in the same way that Brearey has covered up to this point, up until it's been revealed recently by Dr. Taylor, covered up the death of baby O? That was his doing, that was his responsibility. And it might even be, might it not, that Dr. B had no grounds for believing that something that Lucy said or did or knew, or she overheard Lucy saying, or something official, something reported to someone, or her scrupulous notes or a scrupulous reporting ensured that the death of baby Noah couldn't be covered up, whereas they clearly would have wanted it to be covered up. Going now to the death of baby O, are we meant to believe, are we being asked to believe that only Brearey knew what had happened there? Only Brearey knew that what he did caused the death of baby O? Is that what we're being asked to believe? Is it not more likely that other people also knew and conspired with that covering up, and conspired with the knowledge that then that medical error was covered up and Lucy Letby was blamed for the death of baby O and convicted of murder? And the same thing applies when you go back to baby Noah. I think they would have, if they could have, they would have covered that up. Because it was the mistake of two doctors, the junior doctor or junior to Dr. B that she was supervising, made a serious error, and then that was repeated by Dr. B, and then the failure to look at the x-rays and take notice of the machines, the various machines and signs they had that they'd done something very wrong, and it caused the death of baby Noah, and they're responsible for that. And Brearey is responsible for the death of baby O. I know this is speculative, I know it's supposition. I'm wondering where the seed of this drive to persecute Lucy Letby has come from, whether she was deemed to be a traitor. They wouldn't necessarily use that language, but that's how they felt, that group of doctors. Oh, we would have got it away. We would have got away with it. In terms of baby Noah, we would have got away with it if it hadn't have been for Lucy Letby. We would have got away with it if she hadn't said or written something down, or we could have covered this up and just said there was another reason here. There were other they can finesse anything. We know that because we know that Brearey did that. Brearey exactly did that. You could say, well, how could they have covered it up? Well, Brearey covered it up very easily. And that raises another question about baby O, is that something, I can't remember exactly what Dr. Taylor said at the press conference, but he said, oh, but in the post-mortem, George Kukai would have been doing that post-mortem. He wasn't aware of this. He wasn't aware of what had happened with the CPAP machine or something like that, and that he wasn't aware of it. But it raises the question, well, how could he not have been aware of visibly in the post-mortem, the pathology, pathologist doing the post-mortem, Dr. George Kakai, how could he not be aware of a mark in the skin? There's a wound there where that cannula went through, and then also there's damage to the liver, and he would be putting those two together and thinking, well, or would he not be putting those two together? There was something about the conference in which it was like, it's sort of hidden. It was hidden from the pathologist. What had happened that Dr. Taylor and others have since found out through looking at the medical notes and assessing them properly. Somehow that was hidden from the pathologist. But is that possible? Is that likely? Is that possible? Is that believable? What is the pathologist thinking when it sees this incision into the because that wasn't deemed the cause of death by the pathologist, was it? That Brearey had placed a cannula and it lacerated poor baby O's liver. That wasn't deemed the cause of death by the pathologist, so he's missed that. So why has he missed it? If you've got an incision in the baby's skin, and then you've got a harm to the liver. Okay, there's this idea that because of this high level of ventilation, the liver's pushed into a place where it normally wouldn't be. That was the sense I understood from it. The liver's been pushed down into the pelvis, I think the phrase was, towards the pelvis. And then once you take away that high level of ventilation, then there's a repositioning. But nonetheless, is there or is there not an observable laceration or wound in the liver? And is there or is there not a mark of a cannula going through in the place where into McBurney's point, as opposed to it should have been done on the other side, as Dr. Taylor said? And that's the error well, it's a catalogue of errors, isn't it? It's whoever set the ventilation at such a high level as well. And then the error of the cannula incision into the liver, not appreciating that it would be there, using the wrong spot, not being on the right side of the body, which is huge, isn't it, for Brearey to do that. I know he's done it. It can't just be Brearey who knows he's done that. It can't be. I don't believe it. Any more than it could have been kept a secret between, I'm talking about on the medical team now, and then possibly into the nursing team as well. Any more than it could have been kept a secret just between Dr. B and the doctor the doctor junior to her that she was supervising, both of whom placed the tube the wrong way, which ended up causing, and then took no notice of the X-rays or the machines, carbon dioxide machine that was showing those levels, and other machines there. You can you know all about this. You can read all the details of that, and but Brearey managed to keep his error that caused the death of baby O, kept it in-house, didn't he? I don't believe it was just him that realised that had happened. So this is a conspiracy. I mean, it's a conspiracy in many different ways, actually. But that is a very overt conspiracy, that must be a collective of people who knew. But now it also brings in potentially the pathologist. Either the pathologist isn't particularly good at doing post-mortems, or, well, could somebody explain why the pathologist missed the laceration to the liver and the wound in the baby's skin where the cannula went through, and didn't put two and two together as Dr. Taylor and others have done? What is it about them and they're looking at the notes that the pathologist could not do and did not do? What is it? Is it just happenstance? He just missed it, just by chance? To go back to Dr. B, as a seed to this persecution. And in phrases from people like Brearey, which I don't buy these phrases at all, but I think they're red flags of their opposites. When Brearey says, not nice Lucy, and when Jairam mouths this sort of seemingly complimentary phrase that he used to think about Lucy, where he says, oh, I was glad Lucy was on because she's always unflappable, or she's calm in a crisis. I think that's an inversion of what they really felt about her. Not that she wasn't calm in a crisis, but that they disliked her because they believed, as a group, that she had effectively whistleblown and stopped them covering up the death of baby Noah, possibly. I mean, it's possible also, I guess, that there was no way to cover up. There was no way to cover up the death of baby Noah because it was so obvious and so egregious. And the X-rays subsequently showed what had happened, the errors that had happened twice in a row, from the doctor that Dr. B was supervising, and then from Dr. B herself. But nonetheless, that could have been the seed in which, whether it was based on anything or not, Dr. B began to have it in for Lucy, connect and project onto her the fact that Dr. B knew she's killed a baby in conjunction with her doctor colleague. Somehow she wants to project the blame out onto Lucy. Now, whether that's based on something she had heard or seen or just felt, and that goes back to this kind of archetype we keep coming back to of the witch trial days. You know, it was so, what ended up with people being hanged and burned as witches could be the smallest thing, just the dislike for no good reason, the dislike for no good reason, and certainly even the dislike because somebody is good, because somebody is conscientious, as Lucy Letby clearly was, by every account, more conscientious than those doctors, somebody who wouldn't, like Brearey, cover up the death that he'd caused. That's the type of people he is, type of person he is. And I can't believe that only he knew that was the cause of it. And then we come on, obviously, to Evans missing that as the cause of it as well, don't we? So we've got the pathologists as well, we've got Evans as well, we've got the other doctors. Brearey saying to Jairam, I think I was responsible for that. Maybe not. I just don't think it's feasible that I just don't think it's believable. And I think it's to do with the will to want to cover up medical errors that really started the ball rolling. And when these deaths started happening, likely for a mixture of reasons, but one of the principal ones being infection, because of the Pseudomonas aeruginosa and other problems there, no doubt, in relation to infection and the failure to treat it appropriately and properly, lack of staffing, all those things, and many medical errors in relation to those babies. And the fact that they just couldn't operate as a level 2, and the cover wasn't there, they weren't there enough. You know, the criminal really lack of consultant ward rounds. I just think something had to be the genesis of the earlier stage that got it ready, so that when things started going very wrong for the unit in terms of, and wrong for the babies in the unit, more importantly, obviously, that there was someone already in the frame before it ever began. And some kind of, some sense that somebody, in their eyes, and this is a terrible thing for them to think, is that the idea that somebody would want to stop them covering something up like that, or be honest about what had happened, would be seen as an enemy. But maybe in those kind of places, that's exactly what they're seen as. Well, we know that, don't we? It's not a stretch to think about these potentials. Look at Dr. Bolson, the anaesthetist in Bristol. Look at anybody who acts as an actual whistleblower, an actual one. And their colleagues and usually the organisation as a whole turn on them. And then they often get blacklisted, completely blacklisted throughout the whole organisation, as Dr. Bolson did, as he was. Ended up going to Australia. I think it was Australia or New Zealand, I can't remember, but I did look at a lot of stuff about him once, but you just can't keep it all in your head, can you? I think it was Australia. But the NHS had blacklisted him and then he was given an award later for a medal for his prioritising of patient care, while at the same time the NHS blacklisted him. So that's the way real whistleblowers are turned on, and I just think there was something potentially, I don't know, I wonder if there was something potentially seething from 2014, so that when the death started increasing for a range of reasons on the unit, things started becoming, as Dr. Alison Timmis said, very unsafe, and were very unsafe. Then they were already casting around for someone, and they weren't going from zero. Dr. B wasn't, Brearey wasn't, Jayaram wasn't, Gibbs wasn't. They weren't going from zero. I can well believe that all four of those and other doctors there would have been more than happy to cover up the death of baby Noah and any other death any of them or all of them had caused. As indeed, Brearey certainly covered up the death of baby O that he knew he was responsible for, and I can't believe that it was only him that knew that. So that's what we're dealing with here, that this is a major track here about some of these doctors actually covering up deaths that they know they're responsible for or wishing to. And when they're frustrated in that, then and when the opportunity arises, then they will, and that's it. I just thought, sorry, I'll just take a drink. It's not that they needed Lucy Letby to be convicted of all these murders. Oh, sorry, I'll say that again. It's not that of all the deaths, because there were no murders. It's that they wanted her out, and that would have been more than enough, and that's payback for something. It's about getting her out as payback for something earlier, because they would have left it. They would have left it. Lucy Letby gets sent to the island of lost souls, as Jayaram puts it, and then gives it up and says, I'm not working here anymore. They're dangerous. And she would have been right. They're dangerous. They're bullies. They're dangerous. They're liars. They're bullies. I think they're covering up, or they want to cover up deaths that they're causing. The doctors. They're a very dangerous group of people. I can't stay here and I can't act in good conscience because I'm going to report everything I see that they do wrong. And I'm not going to let them get away with anything. Because my first duty is to the babies, as opposed to theirs. It's to their careers and protecting themselves when they make mistakes. That's their duty. The first duty of those consultants is to themselves. Obviously, when Brearey is, I'm not saying he's done it deliberately, but he's obviously an incompetent and dangerous doctor. He's killed baby O. Where is his duty? Where's his next duty? It's to himself, to the extent that he'll let someone else take the blame for that and for his actions to be reframed as a murder that someone else has done. It just hits me so strongly. I mean, no doubt it does everyone, how hideous that is, what that makes him. But it can't just be him that knew that happened. I don't believe it can be. I don't believe it can be. And then you've got other questions that open out from that is, why wasn't that spotted at the post-mortem? The idea that Dr. Taylor says, well, they didn't let him know, or something. He wasn't apprised of certain information. Well, aren't the physical wounds there? Isn't the laceration there? Dr. Taylor talks about a laceration of the liver. Well, is that not there and observable then? Has that disappeared? Has the insertion point at McBurney's point disappeared for the post-mortem? And other doctors, I believe, would have known what really happened there. And they're all more than happy to literally frame someone for murder, for a death that they know one of their number caused. And I do suspect, could be completely wrong, but we go back to the thing. Why does Lucy Letby see Dr. B doesn't like me? That could be about something else, but it's something to do with Lucy Letby's conscientiousness. And we hear about Dr. B through John Sweeney's reports and the information that he's had leaked to him, and found out that Dr. B's got very poor hygienic standards, that she comes, I think from memory, 39 minutes late to a crash call, which that could be implicated in what ended up happening there to that baby, that she's going in and out smoking cigarettes when she's stressed. It just sounds like she's a basket case, Dr. B. Another dangerous doctor, perhaps Brearey is just the same. Well, he is just the same. Oh, he's worse. I don't know who's worse. I don't know. They could have all have done it. They could be all responsible for all kinds of things that we'll never know about, because the primary drive is to cover up their mistakes. And in Lucy Letby, they've got someone who proactively wants to establish when things have gone wrong in a formal way through that dating system. And perhaps, as Operation Merlin Falcon has observed on his YouTube channel, perhaps is the main voice that the CQC inspectors go to, their main source for a number of the items in that CQC report in 2016. The Operation Merlin Falcon have looked at these various things that were said to the inspecting team, and is wondering, very astutely wondering, what's the source of that? Where's that come from? It's not going to be coming from any of those consultants. If it's going to be coming from anyone, the main likelihood is it's coming from Lucy Letby, and maybe there was something there in relation to baby Noah. Maybe. How can we find that out? I was talking about this with my friend, and she said, well, the person that does know about that is Lucy Letby herself. And in terms of whether was she on duty on that night? Was she part of? That's something I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows that. Was Lucy Letby part of? Was that her baby that she was meant to be looking after, baby Noah? So that she knew very much firsthand what those doctors had done, and they couldn't hide it from her because it was happening right in front of Lucy Letby. Or even if she wasn't the assigned nurse for baby Noah, did she just hear about it through someone else and think, well, are they going to try and cover this up? That can't be right. I've got to write down what I've heard or what I've seen. Would it have been possible? Would it have been possible for that medical team to make those x-rays disappear and make every other element disappear, so that they could say, oh, it was natural causes for baby O, and just put anything down to get out of it, to avoid the inquest? Did Lucy Letby say or do anything, or was thought to have said or done anything that Dr. B later thought, well, that's the reason they had an inquest, and I was found out for what I did there. And the other doctor as well was found out. That's what I'm wondering. Maybe there's someone else still working at the hospital that knows more about that. That it was some element of kind of gossip or loose talk around the idea that, well, you know, don't you, they would have wanted to cover up baby Noah, and it was only because of what Lucy Letby wrote down or said or something, the notes she made on a system somewhere. And as I say, it might not be that she actually did that. All it would have needed is for Dr. B to have assumed that Lucy Letby, as a highly conscientious person, had in some way ensured that medical negligence by Dr. B and the other doctor, that Lucy Letby ensured that it could not be covered up, even if Dr. B only thought that was the case. That would be enough. Excuse me. That would be enough for the motivation. Thinking really just about what's the motivation here. You've got these utterly unbelievable characters, Jairam and Brearey, saying, not nice, Lucy. I don't believe it. I think it's the opposite of what they're saying there. That's them storytelling in order to say, well, no, it was never anything personal. But it seems too neat to me. Oh, I always thought she was great, Jairam, you know, she's always great in a crisis. I'm glad she's on. I'm glad it's her. And then it goes to the inversion. Oh, she's killing babies, but I'll keep that to myself for 13 months as well. It goes to the inversion so neatly that suggests to me the potential that they had it in for Lucy Letby from, certainly at least from the time of the death of baby Noah. Because Lucy Letby frustrated something that they would rather have happened. And one of their team, one of their buddies, Dr. B, wouldn't have been held responsible, that they could have made it go away. In the same way that Brearey, in a very extreme way, made it go away with baby O by having it reframed as a murder. And after all, I'll finish now. After all, had there been no persecution of Lucy Letby, and had there been no Gang of Four, had there been no police investigation, had there been no mention of anything like that, what would have happened to baby O? Well, baby O would have been killed by medical error by Brearey, as he was, and that would have been completely and utterly covered up. Forever. It would have been covered up forever, and would have got by the pathologist seemingly, very easily by the pathologist. Got by them. It's a tricky situation now that people have said, well, he's an excellent pathologist. Why didn't you rely on all his post-mortems? Are you saying he's no good at any of these post-mortems? But he didn't spot this. And he didn't spot that on physical examination. Whereas Dr. Taylor and others are spotting it based on essentially pieces of paper. I don't know. It's very odd. At the bottom of a lot of this is just self-protection, and doing anything, framing anyone, doing anything to get out of responsibility. The doctors I'm talking about. And that's what they're continuing to do now. But and a lot of people, and Mark McDonald and his team, and we're on their tail, aren't we? So they're not going to be allowed to do that forever. That's it. That's the video. Take care, and Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you all have a good, healthy, happy and peaceful new year. May this be the year of freedom for Lucy Letby, to return home to her family. The year of freedom, the year of justice and the year of truth about this awful miscarriage of justice, a reversal and a return to order, a restoration of order, and truth and justice in the ascendancy about so many other things in our country and in our world. Thank you.